part of the ARL Research Board, which I might give you some background on that. It's funded by the ARL and also the NRL, and it's designed to research in all sorts of different medical, sports science and different backgrounds, and in particular socio-cultural awareness. So trying to work out what makes people tick in the game, the different aspects of it. One of the big studies that Donna's done is the 5 metre study rule that Tim referred to yesterday, about that time motion analysis and the collision zones and how we got to be 10 metres and now working through lactic acid levels and those sorts of things. So that's the sorts of things it's doing with the AL research and rugby league injury analysis as well. Donna's an Associate Dean in Learning and Teaching in the Faculty of Education of Social Work at Sydney Uni. So it sounds very intense. Lecturing human movement, health education programs, exercise physiology, fitness training theory, practical, all of those different versions of that. The thesis that she did was actually on groin injuries in a rugby league and various other factors. The people that she's worked with: Canadian track and field team, the Wallabies, Australian touch, national basketball, netball, the Cowboys, North Sydney from '91, certainly did some stuff with rugby league there. The Cowboys, the strength and conditioner for '97 to 2001. Current strength and conditioning coach of the Opals, which are current world champions and in an Olympic year heading into hopefully another successful part of that. I could go on forever. The Adelaide Crows, I'll just let her speak. Would you please welcome Donna up to the microphone.
First of all, thanks for the invitation today. I'm looking at something a little bit different, I suppose, this morning, and I guess, have to set the scene as far as a lot of this particular data. The NRL has tried to collect from the various NRL teams some injury prevalence data over the last few years. From my understanding, there hasn't been much as far as analysis with that particular data, and particularly information going back out to the clubs and then to the grassroots level as far as football is concerned. So once the research committee formulated midway through last year, one of the first tasks that they asked me to do was to actually have a look at all of the clubs' injury data that had been completed during 2007. I got that data probably just before Christmas. At the moment, there's actually some missing data as far as some of the fields are concerned. I think we need to tighten up some of the areas as far as what we're actually looking at in terms of the actual statistics or the information that we're getting, so that it's valid and reliable. And I do want, or would appreciate, some of your input today when I start to go through it, because we're in a position at the moment to actually go back out to the clubs as far as what we would like to collect for 2008. And because at the moment I'm probably 60% through analysing this current data, so there's still some that I can talk to you that needs to be done over the next week. And when I send through to Luke the presentation, we're going to delay it that week so that you've got further data than what I can give you today. We're also then having a look at, as coaches, is there some of this data that you would like questions answered? So I've certainly come from my perspective, but again, there may be something that I haven't thought about and you would like to say, well, from that, can you now tell me this, as far as the training implication is concerned? So again, I'd like to get your input on that. The other thing, as it was mentioned, I did my PhD on groin injuries. So the second part of this presentation, I just wanted to have a look at that. And again, with some of the modifications I think that has occurred with training since my PhD, and what direction we can go to hopefully reduce the incidence and severity a little bit further, because again, that's still a substantial area as far as injuries are concerned. So just going through very quickly. The data that was collected, and as I said, each club, from my understanding, had software where either their trainer, their physio or their doctor was asked to actually enter this particular data throughout the season and then send it through to the NRL. The things that they were looking at was the player, the playing position, the venue, the weather conditions, the actual site, the nature of the injury, so whether it was a strain, a sprain, contusion, etc., the actual diagnosis, the mechanism, so what was the activity that the player was doing when that injury occurred, the number of games missed. From that, in going back to NRL stats, I then asked them for their information as far as both some individual stats and some game stats to see whether there's any association with some of the injury trends that we're getting and some of that information. So again, we're going to start to have a look at the amount of game time, the number of tackles, number of hit-ups, metres gained, whether they kick, if so how many, and whether that's associated with any type of the injuries. The game statistics, so again, whether that particular team won or lost on that day, their completions, timing, possession, again, tackles from a team perspective rather than a player perspective. So as I said, as we start to go through, if there's things that I've forgotten and you're interested in, now's an opportunity where we can probably add those. For this particular sample, 14 of the clubs sent through their game injuries. Apparently the NRL again had asked for both training and game. I think I'm second guessing whether it was communication or perhaps because a lot of feedback hadn't gone back to clubs previously as far as, I guess, seeing the need or warrant as far as giving this particular information. So the study at the moment, we have limited just to game injuries. We haven't looked at training at all because the sample size was too small. So from those 14 clubs, there was 276 players that sustained an injury. There were 652 injuries from those 14 clubs throughout the 2007 season. So that gives us 2.4 injuries as an average. If I look at incidence rates, and in the sports med literature, it's probably one of the standard ways of being able to try to compare some data. And again, what the NRL is hoping to do is first of all have a look at how much data I can get from 2006. We've certainly got quite a bit for 2007. We will then have 2008, also knowing that it's going to be under slightly different rules as far as interchange is concerned. So we can start to have a look at what the trends may be. So I found it quite interesting, and it probably wasn't one that I would have guessed, I'm not sure about yourselves, but Nathan Gibbs did a study back in the 1992 season, so it's published in 1993, and his definition as far as injuries was that the player had to miss at least one game. And from that, the calculation was that it was just on 45 injuries per 1,000 playing hours. When we jump down 15 years and go to the 2007 season, the actual injury incidence hasn't increased as much as what I might have thought. So it's actually up just under 48 per 1,000 hours. Again, if we use the definition as far as one game needed to be missed. As far as the NRL data, clubs were actually asked to include any injuries. So again, even if it was a case, and we all know that at various times, depending on the severity of the injury, players will play injured, particularly if it's a minor injury. So when we have a look at all injuries that may have impacted on performance, but they were still willing to play, as well as those missed, it jumps up, virtually doubles, to going up to 106.5 injuries per 1,000 hours. And as far as other sports are concerned, that puts us relatively high. So again, we need to have a look from a training perspective on, with some of these trends, are there some things again that we can do as far as our training and preparation is concerned. Tim, as you know, spoke yesterday. He actually had a look as far as semi-professional, and his results, again, when at least one game was missed, the rate came in at 68 per 1,000 hours. I'm just going to start to go through, and I apologise if, again, there's lots of statistics, but it's more trying to get a sense of what are those trends, and then if we can discuss some of the training implications from that. So I'll try not to get too bogged down as far as numbers and things are concerned. We want to first of all then to have a look out of those 264 players, the 650 odd injuries, where were they mainly occurring? So as far as the site, you can see that the three, and we've just categorised as far as the arm, the face, the foot and ankle, the hand, we have the head separately, knees, lower leg, shoulder, trunk, and the upper leg. And when it was categorised like that, as far as upper leg, we also threw hip in. So again, we were trying to just categorise anatomically as far as those particular areas. If we have a look then from that graph, The upper leg was going to be where the most injuries occurred, and if we break that down then to the type of injury that that's going to be in those areas, we've got hamstrings at 48%, the quads at 27%,